Thank you very much, Gina, and of course, Sylvette, for carrying on, not being daunted by the obvious competition on the other side. Our esteemed Chief Justice, Artemio Panganiban, and of course, the distinguished members of the Supreme Court who are present here today and tonight, and whose landmark decision only the other day is, in my view, a breath of fresh air for the rule of law. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you, our foreign guests and friends. Of course, President Abala, Justice Chow Higtin, now Attorney General. You know, yesterday, I was told, as he already told you, he was supposed to deliver a testimonial for the new Chief Justice of Singapore. So Charles Lim, our Secretary General there, told me there is some concern because he is delivering 2 speeches. We don't want him to mix up his speeches and read the wrong one. Anyway, I would like to adopt in toto, for the record, all of the introductions and the greetings that have been heretofore made in this podium. And of course, I'd like to greet all the distinguished members of the bench and bar who are present here tonight. My colleagues in the National Committee and in the ALA, my friends and ladies and gentlemen. As you may have noticed by now, I am to introduce the guest of honor after an array of distinguished speakers have already spoken. So that I can now truly say our guest of honor needs no further introduction. It pays to be chairman of the committee that approved the program. All the same, I'd just like to add a bit of personal notes to some of the things already articulated here. To begin with, let me assure you, ladies and gentlemen, that all these years there is one thing constant about the Honorable Chief Justice. He has never lost his sense of humor. You know, about a month ago in the Integrated Bar Testimonial, some of you were present there. You remember I delivered a testimonial in which I remarked that the Chief Justice has a universal knowledge of many things other than law. That he understands law, he understands business, he understands international contacts, he understands media. And you know what his response was? For those who were not there, he says, "That's right, I admit I'm really understanding, because that's one qualification to be a justice of the Supreme Court. To be understanding, because he is understanding every time his wife, Mrs. Panganiban, asks him to do something." So, you know, I heard first of the Chief Justice, a long time ago. I was in the office of Dean Obito Salonga, who has nurtured a really first-class school in Far Eastern University. And we were having a debate. I was in the team of San Beda together with Justice Callejo of the Supreme Court and the late Roger Panotes. And I was greeted by him, and he said, well, you guys are very lucky. Why? Because our star debater, Art Panganiban, is already reviewing for the bar. So I replied, thank you, Dean Salonga, for your confidence. And we won the debate, but student Art Panganiban won 6th place in the bar examinations he was reviewing for. So let me just say that there are other personal things that I'd like to add to those things already said here. For example, if you turn to page the third page, entitled Lifetime Achievements. You will find there in the souvenir program, take a look at the lower left side, a photo of the Working Committee in action of the first ALA General Assembly. Standing to my right is a practicing lawyer who has the sideburns of Elvis Presley. And of course, there was Teddy Boy Locsin and the late Easy Perez. But his commitment to ALA did not end there. You go further to page 7, and you will find there, on the article titled Legacy, a photo again on the lower side that shows one of those pictures of the Governing Council members of the Philippine National Committee. I'm sure you recognize there Justice Carpio, Justice Cusumbing, Justice Velocino, and others. They have been really pillars and ardent supporters of ALA all these years. I know that the Chief Justice has never missed a single Governing Council or General Assembly meeting of ALA. And therefore, I'd like to just say that the elevation of the Chief Justice to his present position sustains almost a tradition in ALA, whereby the most eminent jurists who are members of ALA assume the leadership position in their respective highest courts. And just to name a few, recall the names of Lord President Tun Sufyan of Malaysia, Chief Justice Sansern Kraichiti, Chief Justice the late Purwoto Ganda Subrata of Indonesia, and of course, in more recent times, Chief Justice Davide himself, the present Chairman of Indonesia, Chief Justice Bagirmanan, and the present Chairman of Thailand. You will all go to Bangkok in November, the Chief Justice Ataniti Amraj. So I think that he is carrying on that tradition, and I'd like to say that there are many things we can talk about as the values that he holds. For example, in family values, education stands high within his own family. His only son obtained 2 PhDs from Stanford. His 4 daughters all obtained graduate diplomas in Harvard, Universities of California, Chicago, and Michigan, all with outstanding academic achievements. Of course, his wife, Elenita, sitting there right beside him, was a former dean of AIM and has 2 master's degrees. So there was a period of time, and our poor Chief Justice was the only one in his family who did not have a graduate degree. So fortunately, he later received honoris causa degrees in law. In closing, before I turn over the microphone back to our MCs and before I finish this task, let me just share with you what Justice Benjamin Cardozo of the United States Supreme Court once asserted in his usual elegant prose as to the value of an independent judiciary. He postulated that a judge, to decide correctly, must first understand not only the law, but all of society's endeavors. But to be able to decide fairly, a judge must decide freely in what he calls a method of free decision. And I'd like to quote him in his treatise on the nature of judicial process. The judge, as the interpreter for the community of its sense of law and order, must supply omissions, correct uncertainties, and harmonize results with justice through a method of free decisions. Courts are to search for light among the social elements of every kind that are the living force behind the facts they deal with. The power thus put in their hands is great and subject like all power to abuse, but we are not to flinch one moment from granting it. In the long run, there is no guarantee of justice except the personality of the judge. In my humble opinion, our guest of honor, the Chief Justice, by preparation and hard work, is up to that challenge, worthy of respect of all Filipino citizens, and I venture to say, so is the entire Supreme Court under its leadership. It's my honor to present to you one of our own, a distinguished and esteemed name in the Asean region and ALA Philippine National Committee, the Honorable Chief Justice of the Philippines, Artemio V.